morning came without sunlight. The horizon was swallowed by fog, the sky and ocean blending into one dull shade of silver. The Aegir drifted soundlessly, her engines resisting every command. The heartbeat continued, slow, steady, vast. The hull trembled each time it sounded, as though something alive moved beneath the vessel. Crew members began reporting nausea, headaches, dizziness. One claimed he could feel the beat inside his own chest, sinking with it until he could barely breathe. Dr. Voss took the black fragment to the lab. Under ultraviolet light, the surface quivered, expanding and contracting like lungs. Its interior glowed faintly red. When she placed a finger on the glass, the pulse matched her heartbeat exactly. She recoiled, horrified. By afternoon, readings on the depth sensor spiked and vanished. Sonar showed the impossible. The trench was deepening. At 1703, the water around the Aegir rippled outward in perfect circles. The ship groaned, lights flickered, and every compass needle pointed straight down. Night fell. The fog thickened to the color of ash. The ocean stilled again, but everyone felt it. They were being watched from below. No birds. No breeze. Only the sound of metal expanding in the cold. When Captain Lindholm tried to drop anchor, the chain rattled endlessly but never reached bottom. The sonar readout displayed one word, infinity, and then blanked out entirely. In the mess hall, the crew whispered about the missing ROV logs. The data from the dive had been erased, every second of it. Only the final frame remained, that glowing spiral on the seafloor. Just before dawn, something massive moved under the Aegir. The deck shifted slightly, as if the ship were resting atop a living thing. Crew ran to the rails, but the fog hid everything. The sea beneath them shimmered faintly blue, forming shapes that looked almost human. At 5:22, the heartbeat returned, louder, faster, closer. Dr. Voss locked herself in the lab, staring at the black fragment. The veins on its surface had multiplied, crawling like roots across the containment glass. With each pulse from below, the veins throbbed and spread. The sea around the ship was no longer calm, it was breathing. When morning came, the cook was gone. His apron still hung by the stove, one boot upright, the other on its side with seawater pooled inside. No one had seen him leave the galley, and every security camera showed the same thing, static. Dr. Voss rewound the footage again and again until she caught a single frame between the flickers, a tall, thin outline standing just behind him, bending slightly, as if listening. She froze the image. The shape's head was tilted upward, almost touching the ceiling, and in the reflection of the stainless steel door, she saw a glimmer like an eye. By noon, they found new droplets of water on every bulkhead, though there'd been no rain for days. The puddles formed patterns, spirals like the one from the seafloor. Captain Lindholm ordered the lower deck sealed, but the smell of salt and metal still rose through the vents. That night, the heartbeat came faster, mixed with something else, a faint scratching, like nails dragging along the hull from the outside. 2 engineers went down to inspect the ballast systems. They never came back. The last thing heard over the intercom was a scream cut short by rushing water. When rescue teams opened the hatch, they found only dripping suits, still zipped, standing upright as if worn by invisible bodies. From that moment, no one volunteered for duty below deck. The corridors smelled of brine and rust. Condensation collected in narrow lines that looked disturbingly like fingerprints. In the control room, sonar began to echo strange harmonics, tones that almost resembled a language. Dr. Voss ran frequency analysis and found repeating phrases, geometric in rhythm. When inverted, the patterns matched human brainwave activity. She stared at the screen, whispering, "It's thinking." At 3 a.m., the hull flexed outward with a deep metallic groan. The vessel was being lifted, gently, like a toy in enormous hands. Then it fell back, and every light went dark. When the emergency power returned, the ocean had turned smooth as glass. Each crew member who looked over the rails saw their reflection lag a moment behind, like watching a delayed video. Some saw themselves smile when they hadn't. Others saw nothing at all. The youngest researcher, Matteo, leaned over too far. Witnesses said his reflection reached up first. The splash was soft. The water didn't even ripple afterward. Only his voice came back, faint and gurgling through the speakers of the bridge, repeating the captain's orders before he spoke them. Dr. Voss closed every porthole and ordered all mirrors covered. But on the screens, their faces began to appear anyway, pale, distorted, moving out of sync with their bodies. It wasn't the sea reflecting anymore. It was the sea remembering. The air grew heavy, thicker with each hour. Breathing felt like inhaling water. Electronic clocks reversed, ticking backward in slow, steady clicks. Every 10th flicker of the lights revealed a shadow standing at the end of the corridor. Long arms, head brushing the ceiling, water dripping onto the metal floor. No one could describe its face. Everyone remembered it differently. The captain locked himself in his quarters and started recording audio logs. On the tapes he spoke calmly, describing coordinates, weather, pulse rate of the sea. But halfway through the final log his voice changed pitch, deeper, slower, finishing his sentence in words no one recognized. By evening, half the crew refused to work. They said the ship wasn't floating anymore. It was suspended in something thicker than water. Dr. Voss checked the pressure readings. The numbers were impossible. Outside pressure 0. They were alone now, not lost, just erased. No radio, no satellite lock, no sky. The fog pressed so close the ship's lights bounced straight back. When anyone spoke on deck, their own voice echoed a few seconds later from the other side of the mist, answering in a slower, wetter tone. Crews slept in shifts but woke gasping, claiming they dreamt of drowning, and that when they opened their eyes, the dream had kept going. Dr. Voss wrote everything in her notebook until the pages turned damp. She noticed that her handwriting had changed, long curved lines replacing letters, spirals, again and again. When she tried to stop, her hand kept moving by itself. At midnight, the ship began to sink, not by decision, but by will. The ballast tanks filled on their own, valves twisting though no one touched them. The ocean outside turned from silver to black to something deeper, a color that had no name. Pressure gauges flatlined, though the hull didn't crush. Instead, the world outside stretched and breathed like liquid glass. Dr. Voss felt her ears pop and realized there was no sound. The pulse had stopped. For the first time in days, silence ruled. Then a voice rose through the decks, not the captain's, not human at all, a slow vibration that formed words inside the mind instead of the air. It said only one thing, over and over. Below is above. When light finally returned, it came from beneath the ship. The glow under the hull expanded into a moving shape, larger than the Aegir itself. Sensors went wild. Magnetic fields bent backward. Metal began to hum. Crew members fell to their knees, clutching their heads as the tone grew higher, sharper, almost musical. Through the fogged glass, Dr. Voss saw something rising, a pale surface like flesh, ridged and endless, dotted with openings that pulsed with faint red light. It wasn't the seafloor. It was skin. The realization hit her just before the water around them began to boil. The Aegir lifted, tilted, and came to rest upon the vast living form beneath. For a heartbeat, everything was still. Then the pulse returned, louder than ever, and the ship shook apart one bolt at a time. When the vibration stopped, half the crew was gone. Doors stood open, gear still warm, coffee mugs untouched. Dr. Voss followed wet footprints leading to the deck, where she found their uniforms folded neatly in a circle. In the center of the circle lay the black fragment, now larger, veins spreading across the metal. She reached for her radio. The static that answered carried voices, hundreds of them, all whispering her name. One by one, the whispers turned into rhythmic chanting, repeating the same sound the sonar had once made, boom, boom, boom. Each pulse pushed the ship lower, the horizon tilting, the sky bleeding into the water until she couldn't tell which way was up. The fog cleared without warning. Around the Aegir, the sea glowed faintly blue-green, illuminating the silhouettes of other vessels, dozens, maybe hundreds, floating silently, all identical, each reflecting the same damage, the same lights, the same faces staring back from their decks. Dr. Voss blinked, and every other ship blinked with her. They were reflections, or maybe echoes, trapped in layers of water like glass panes stacked forever downward. One reflection stepped closer to the edge, raising its hand. Her own body copied the motion against her will. When she tried to look away, her reflection smiled, and the glassy ocean cracked. The heartbeat roared again, deeper, faster, shaking instruments from the walls. The captain burst from his cabin, eyes wide, skin pale as salt. He carried his log recorder, mumbling coordinates that spun like code. "Every number loops," he said, though his mouth barely moved. "We never left port." The fog outside turned red, bleeding into the clouds. The ocean below began to glow from within, lighting the Aegir like a lantern adrift in blood. Dr. Voss looked down one last time through the viewing window. Far beneath, she saw the spiral again. Only now it was opening, widening, spinning faster with each beat. The trench wasn't a hole. It was a mouth. The Aegir tilted sharply as the spiral widened below. Metal screamed, rivets tore free, and the deck buckled like thin ice. Crew who hadn't already vanished clung to railings, their faces ghostly white in the red light. Water wasn't rising, it was being pulled upward, crawling along the hull in long tendrils that left trails of steam. Dr. Voss ran for the lab, clutching the containment case. Inside, the black fragment throbbed violently, now covered in moving veins that looked disturbingly like nerves. As she watched, it split open. A thin stream of seawater poured out, spelling lines across the floor in jagged spirals that glowed for a moment before vanishing. Then the whispering started again, this time inside her skull. "You brought us light. You brought us form. Now you must feed it." Her vision blurred. The ship groaned. Something vast outside exhaled, and the fog drew inward as if the sky itself was breathing them down. Time fractured. Every sound repeated twice, once in her ears, once in her head. The captain stood on the bridge, speaking to no one, reading from his log in perfect reverse. Each sentence described a moment seconds before it happened. Outside, ghostly shapes swam past the portholes, human outlines moving gracefully through the pressure, their eyes glowing with the same light as the black fragment. They weren't drowning. They were changing. Dr. Voss stumbled onto the deck, calling their names, but her voice came back in chorus. dozens of versions of herself echoing from every direction. Each one whispered something different, warnings, apologies, prayers, but all ended with the same phrase. "You can't go up. It's already above you." In the bridge, the captain sat before the dead radio, whispering into his recorder. "The Aegir has entered the trench. The trench is not a trench. The sea has no bottom because the sea has no top." He paused, trembling. "Pressure reads 0. That means we're inside it now. Inside the pulse." Dr. Voss tried to pull him away, but his eyes rolled white. The recorder clicked. The tape played back instantly. The same voice, now distorted, finishing his next sentence before he spoke it. When the device stopped, the captain slumped forward. His chest no longer rose, but his lips still moved, silently, matching the beat of the sea. The ship began to unravel. Not explode, not sink, dissolve. Metal turned translucent, then weightless, drifting upward like dust in slow motion. Crew members dissolved too, their outlines softening, merging with the mist that poured from every seam. Dr. Voss clung to the last solid railing as reality bent around her. The ocean below had become a vast eye, its pupil a bottomless void swirling with faint bioluminescent lines. The heartbeat was deafening now, not from below but from inside the ship, from inside her own chest. She realized the Aegir wasn't being consumed. It was being rewritten, each molecule folded into the pattern she had found in the sand. A perfect spiral. A beginning disguised as an end. Dr. Voss no longer knew where the deck ended and the sky began. The fog had become liquid, shimmering like mercury. Shapes drifted inside it, faces of her crew, each one mouthing the same word she could no longer hear. Her body felt weightless, suspended between breath and pressure. Every pulse of the sea echoed inside her bones, syncing perfectly with her heart until the two became one rhythm. The black fragment hovered in front of her now, no longer inside its case. It turned slowly, glowing from within, and for a brief second she saw the ocean as it truly was, a living structure of endless tissue, stretching across the planet's surface, every wave a slow heartbeat in a sleeping body too vast to comprehend. She finally understood. The trench wasn't a place. It was an opening, a wound in something ancient, and the Aegir had drifted straight into it. The whisper returned. "You are part of it now." Somewhere within what was left of the ship, the captain's recorder clicked on by itself. A single message transmitted through static, repeating on loop. "This is the research vessel Aegir. We found the bottom." The bottom was looking back. The signal spread across frequencies that no human ear could hear. Whales miles away changed their migration. Deep-sea cables hummed faintly. Satellites blinked out of sync. On every frequency, for one single second, the same sound was captured: boom, 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 the heartbeat of the abyss. Below the drifting fog, the outlines of the crew shimmered and folded into the water. They did not sink. They simply became part of it, like ink dissolving into a vast, patient ocean. When the sun finally rose over the North Atlantic, there was no sign of the Aegir. Only a calm patch of sea, perfectly circular, where no waves formed and compasses refused to point north. A fishing trawler passing weeks later reported strange readings: pressure 0, depth infinite, sound constant. Sonar returned a pattern like a heartbeat, repeating once every 7 seconds. No wreckage ever surfaced. But sometimes, on quiet nights, sailors swear they see faint lights moving beneath the waves, forming a spiral, pulsing slowly in rhythm with their own hearts. And if you tune a radio to the right static frequency, far out in the dark Atlantic, you might hear a woman's voice whisper through the hiss of the sea. The abyss is not below us. It is within us. And it remembers.